And Penny Fairbanks this week. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Hello.
Hello.
Great. So we're going to go in chronological order. We've got three fantastic books, two in Sweet Dreams line and one in the original line launching this week. And so we're going to start with Kate's book, and it is Right for Me, Marquis. Right for Me, Marquis, and it's book 5 in A Very Fine Muddle. And I love the setup for this series so much, and I love hearing about these stories. Kate, can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this is Juliet's story. She is the youngest daughter. And, so she's got to watch all her sister's shenanigans, and she's preparing for her own shenanigans. But one of the things these sisters always do is they come to London with a preconceived idea of who they're looking for, even though it never works out that way. They're very determined. And the other thing they do is they're a very supportive family, overly supportive. So each one of them thinks they have some sort of artistic genius, and they don't. And Juliet is the family poetess. So she writes these really dreadful 4-line odes, but she thinks she's very good. So she's determined to marry her poet. So that's what she's coming to London for. And so then there is a little dynamic between a very handsome man who wouldn't know poetry if it knocked him in the head, or Mr. Roundbat, who is a poet who writes in the Japanese style. And his poems are equally bad. So she has to figure out where her heart is. And, it's very humor driven, and Miss Mayton is there up to her shenanigans, and it's very fun.
I loved the way you said that the Ton was bracing for another sister to come out, because there have been so many shenanigans up to this part. You can just kind of see everybody going, "Oh, here comes one more,"
Well, I think it's really interesting because when I was thinking about who these people are, I thought, what if you had a family where people became oblivious to their weak spots because the family is never going to point anything out? Everybody is all for everybody. So they are pretty delusional about their skill sets.
Well, it sounds delightful, and I'm going to assume that she does not end up with the Japanese poet, but perhaps.
I'm not going to say.
Perhaps.
Maybe she does. Yeah, probably not though. But he was hilarious to write. Because he's not a fraudster, but he has also deluded himself, and he's also gotten involved with moneylenders because his goal is to launch this big career. He wants to be bigger than Wordsworth. It's not ever going to happen, but that's what he wants. But his father is, a very sort of down-to-earth baron who just refused to fund this ridiculous season that he had in mind. So he gets in deep with the money lenders, which causes all kinds of problems.
Oh, goodness. And so at the end of the blurb, you refer to Rat's Castle. And I read it, and I just was curious as all get out as to what is Rat's Castle.
So that was a neighborhood in London, one of those very narrow street, very dark alley kind of neighborhoods where, if you were up to any sort of criminal activity, this would be a good place to hide.
Oh,
and that's what it was called, the Rat's Castle. The Rat's Castle.
Well, I guess that makes sense. I had no idea. Awesome. Well, it sounds like so much fun, and that is part of the Dragonblade's Sweet Dreams line, which means that we get nothing but the kissing. So
yeah, we get hints of things that may have happened, but nothing detailed or open door.
Yeah, and those are lovely. So one of the things I love about Dragonblade is that you can choose your heat level. People get to pick exactly what it is they want to read. What you're getting going in. So it's a promise. Awesome. And we get one more of those to finish out the series.
Yeah, there is an older brother who has been dodging getting married all this time, and his sisters have all been so distracting. He's been flying under the radar, but now they're all married. So they all get together and form this cabal, basically.
Oh, man.
Married, yeah. Led by Miss Mayton. Oh, and Miss Mayton, I have to say, I can't wait for book 6 to come out, because there has been a secret brewing about Miss Mayton since book 1, and it all comes out in book 6.
Oh, wow. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Well, you have to get through book 5 before you can get to book 6. So if you haven't picked it up, you should get Write for Me Mark West this week. So, okay, well, that sounds delightful. And then the next book that comes out this week is Penny's book, and it's her Dragonblade debut, and it is Awaken the Heart, which is book 1 in the Society of Swans, and this is also part of the Sweet Dreams line. Penny, can you tell us about this one?
Yes. So this is my very first book with Dragonblade ever, which is hugely exciting. Also a little nerve-wracking, but very, very exciting. So this one is called Awaken the Heart, and it's the first book in the Society of Swans series. And this one is one of my favorite tropes. It's childhood friends to lovers. You know, I've got kind of a soft spot for that one. And it's also a grumpy sunshine trope too, which I think is, just so fun to see how that dynamic through their memories and things that they discuss kind of has evolved over their lifetimes, and kind of how it flourishes into, their eventual relationship. But the premise of the book and the series as a whole is that each lady in this group of friends, there's 6 girls, in this group of friends, and they're going to each receive a mysterious anonymous letter from someone called Lady Swan, who hints at who her future husband will be, and kind of gets her started on the path towards finding her match. Because all of the girls have kind of gone through a couple seasons, haven't been very successful. So some of them are okay with that, and some of them are, kind of starting to worry a little bit. So each of them will get one of these letters, and it will start her kind of on her path. But in this one, our main character, Lydia, she receives her letter, and it seems pretty obvious to her that it's kind of hinting towards her, her best friend, Sebastian. And she thinks there's no way this can be possible because, they are best friends, but they're total opposites. She's very serious, very reserved. She was raised, in a very strict household, and he's, he is the sunshine. He's funny and
reverse grumpy sunshine.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Nice.
So he's the sunshine, and he's the one that can make her laugh and bring her out of her shell, and so yeah.
Oh, it sounds great. And so there's six books total.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I lost you for a minute.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. Now your microphone is back. It was just muffled for a minute. But 6 books total in the series.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, awesome. Well, that sounds like lots of fun. So, and then the third book that comes out this week is Winning Her Duke, and it's book 1 in the Scots and Scoundrels series, and it's also Allison's debut with Dragonblade. So,
Yeah.
lots to be excited about this week.
Yes. So my first book with Dragonblade, my 29th book
overall.
Wow. So yes, so exciting. This story, the whole series is a bunch of friends who are from Scotland, who are in London. It's Regency era, and so they are in London, being the roguish scoundrels. And the first book is a duke, the Duke of Roxburgh, and he doesn't want to get married. Of course, none of them ever do, but he does not like the country. When he was growing up, he was left in the country alone as his parents would go off and do their own thing. And basically the staff raised him. So he hates being in the country, being alone. He likes to be in the city and doing things and being with people. The heroine, Gia, she had a horrible come out. And so she does not like to be in the city or with society at all. She loves
this is going to be awkward.
Yes, she loves to just stay in the country with her horses that she raises. She breeds and raises and trains race horses. So her father, the story starts with her father tricking her. He pretends he has an ailment that he must come to London to see someone about, and so they're racing to London to help save him. And as soon as they get there, he feels much better and everything's fine. But now they're there for the season, and so she's been tricked into being part of the season. And they get together because he's a big horse person and she has her horses there. And he comes to the home where they're staying to inquire about buying a horse from a gentleman. It turns out that it's her, and it's her horse. And so they start this friendship just based on their love of horses. And since she doesn't want to get married, she's perfectly fine being a spinster, and he doesn't want to get married. They think that their friendship is perfectly safe, and that they can just, be friends and talk about horses, and life will go on without any kind of, detour into love.
Wait.
Of course, you can assume that doesn't work out quite right. So, yes.
So is it love that catches them, or does something else force them together?
It is. That definitely starts out with friendship. I do like friends to lovers trope. There's a lot of fun building on how the reader sees them coming together before they see themselves coming together, and it's kind of a shock for them. That's always a fun thing to write. But it is kind of forced. So she has a reason why she decides she does need to get married. And he's not there at the moment. So she decides to marry someone else. When he comes back and finds out she's getting married, kind of the writing is on the wall, and hey, maybe this could work out. So
fun. I
Yeah.
like it when they catch feelings and they didn't realize that they were catching them.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Well, awesome. And how many in this series?
There'll be 3. Each one is one of the friends
good.
that
So we'll get
went to school together in Scotland. So
So we'll get to see the group come back together throughout the rest of the books.
yes, you
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things.
Yes.
Well, there's so many good things to read this week. There are always so many good things to read this week, but there's so many good things to read this week. So, very cool.
Always. Yes.
So we still have some time left, and I thought maybe we could talk a little bit since it is Allison and Penny's debut, and we haven't talked about writing before. And 29 books that's a lot of books. So I thought we could take a few minutes and just talk a little bit about writing process, and if there's anything that you have to have in particular, or are you heavy plotters? Or I know, Penny, I put an interview with you up on our website, and Allison is doing an interview later this week, and I know you had said that you were a heavy plotter.
Yes.
So where you all fall on the plotting, pasting, and do you have any specific writing ritual kind of things that you do? And Penny, you can start. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a plotter. So that is what I call, pretty much my discovery phase. So that's where I discover the story versus, kind of just going in blind and and writing it out, which is something that I really wish that I could do. But every time I try to, as soon as I have to stop and think about what's going to come next, it just gets me out of the flow. So the outline kind of helps me, once I start writing, to stay in the actual writing flow. So the outline is where I pause and think, and also kind of where I can rearrange ideas as I need to, instead of trying to do that when you've got a huge block of text in front of you. And like I said in my interview as well, I definitely still find some surprises along the way. The outline is not the be all and end all. So as I'm writing, kind of, I leave room for conversations and scenes to kind of flow. So I'll have the ideas of where the chapter and the scene is going to go and kind of what conversations need to happen. But as I'm writing, those things kind of tend to flow, and they can surprise me in those moments too, for sure. Sometimes some characters will come out and say something, and I'll be like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do some adjusting here. But I usually like to go with it, and usually those gut moments are, I find that those are usually the right ways to go for me. Yeah.
Do you do extensive outlines? Do you do big long ones? I know what Emily Murdoch talks about her outlines, and they're like 30 pages long.
Oh my gosh, wow. Not quite that long, but they can get into, I would say probably my longer ones have gone into almost the 10,000 words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It is quite extensive.
So yeah, but not all of them are necessarily quite that long, but yeah, they definitely can get pretty detailed.
So, Kate, you were shaking your head on the idea of writing.
No outlines for me. And I wish I could do an outline. I think that, in the rest of my life, I'm so organized and thinking ahead and not leaving things to chance, that I would love to be able to do an outline. It just doesn't work. I can't do it. I don't know why. And every book I've written, I never would have come up with certain ideas or characters or plots if I tried to think of it ahead of time. I don't know why that doesn't work for me. So yeah, it's always a surprise, I send in my outline to Dragonblade, and then we're like, well, now we'll see what happens. We might veer off.
See, I hadn't thought about that before, but that makes sense. It feels like I play logistical Tetris everywhere else in my whole entire life. And so that the idea of doing that with writing is really hard. It's like I want a little bit of the magic, when you sit down and aren't sure exactly where it is that you're going.
But it's hair raising because, well, I mean, I know my patterns better because I'm a lot of books in, but, always around page 50, I'm like, okay, now what? Because I basically just wrote out the premise. That's great. Where are we going now? So that's always like, oh God. So
yeah.
And that place halfway through where you're like, well, they seem happy-ish. So, like what? Like there's a lot of book left and they seem happy-ish. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Allison, what about you?
So I'm actually in between. So my ideas usually will come in the middle of the night. I'll wake up and I have to go write them down, or they're gone in the morning when I get up. So generally what I'll do is I'll open a Word document and I put all the scenes that come to me in the notes section off to the side. So it's not really an outline, but everything's kind of mapped out there. Yes. Because, and I said before we started, I'm a little bit weird in how I write because I don't write from the beginning to the end. I write scenes as they are coming to me, and I might not get all of them at the same time. So I'll list out the scenes that I get. I'll write the scenes. And then when I'm about 20,000 words out, then I start reading through the beginning and linking all of my scenes together, making sure everything, continuity wise makes sense, that kind of thing. So for me, I never have the middle because I don't know what the middle of the book is whenever I start at that point. So it doesn't I don't have that area where I don't know what's happening because it's just scene to scene. And sometimes I'll get the end of the book first. I'll get the beginning. I'm kind of all over the place, but so I'm kind of middle in that I do kind of list things to put them in order, but then I jump around and things can change. So
my writing buddy writes out of order like that, and I have never understood it. Never, ever, ever understood it. How it's possible not to move from one thing to another.
Yeah.
Do you end up having to jettison things or to rewrite things, or do you find that it pretty much?
No, hardly at all, ever. I will move things around in order if I need something to happen before where I had put it originally, but generally all the scenes work out. I just need to organize them and put them and then just link them together. So I don't know. I never planned to do this.
Evelyn, I think I've told you the story before about Cynthia Leidig Smith, who has the most hair-raising process I've ever heard of. She writes a full first draft and then she deletes it
Oh my
entirely.
goodness.
Whoa.
Nothing?
Entirely.
Oh, wow.
Oh, come on.
She writes for kids. She's gotten a lot of awards. She's a great writer, but that's her process. Write the whole first draft and then completely delete it. It's all gone. Start over.
Well, you gotta respect the
That's
process.
brutal.
I had a professor for my brief stint in architecture school who said the first thing he has to do anytime he designs things is design like a Baroque teacup, because that's, he has to get that out of his head before he can find the stuff underneath. So I guess there's some kind of, thing for that, but that would hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I don't even like taking a wrong turn.
Yeah.
And there are always those moments where you're trying to force things, to be the way you want them to be, and they aren't always that way.
Yes.
Awesome. So do you find, do you write in offices? Do you write in the mornings? Do you write in the evenings? Are we coffee shop people? Where do you set up?
I am in my office right now. This is my office for my day job. And then I just swap out my laptop for my evening job. So everything's all comfortable here, and I have multiple screens, and everything I need is right here. All my maps for Scotland and England and everything is at hand. I'm not too good to go somewhere else because there's always something I need that is hanging somewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you, Penny?
Well, my desk is officially in the living room, but I would say I spend probably only 50% of my time at my desk. Sometimes I'll be writing from the couch or from the bed, kind of just whatever mood I'm in. But I do find that weirdly, for some reason, when I'm in the editing process, I have to do that from the couch, and I have to have the TV on with like some soothing music going on in the background because editing is not my favorite part of the process. So I have to make myself very comfortable and cozy for it. But yeah, occasionally I will do a coffee shop, but I pretty much like to stay at home and write with my kitty.
Oh,
Yeah, he keeps me company. Yeah, he usually hangs out wherever I'm working. So,
the writer and her cat.
yep.
Kate, I know you're a weekend writer, and you have a very specific ritual. Can you remind us?
All day, Saturday and Sunday. That's what I do. And I've mentioned this before. I don't feel like I'm missing anything because I don't like all those Saturday and Sunday activities.
No farmer's market for you.
No. And I'm not going to brunch and I'm not going to the mall. I'm not doing any of that. So yeah, I love it. And I'm very ritualistic. I have, my special smoothie and the whole thing.
And that makes sense. And there's something really lovely about having that like concentrated chunk of time where your brain knows what it's going to be doing. I think that's really helpful when you get so used to, I think, trying to fit things together and finding space for things. So chunking off that block of time
and also, I lead a writers group, and I always hear the same refrains all the time. Like, I want to write more, but I don't have time. It's about a schedule. And the problem is people look at their lives and say, well, I don't have time. Well, of course you don't, because nobody has just left 3 hours during the day as empty. I don't have anything at all to do. Something's got to go.
Yeah. I just don't want it to be the farmer's market, Kate. I really like the farmer's market.
I don't like any of that stuff. No.
Because I'm a project manager during the day, I have a spreadsheet that keeps track of my time and my words. So I know how many words I need to write within a week to keep up to my deadlines. And I can usually space that across the week or the weekends. I'm usually a weekend writer as well, but I do have the evenings since I am working all day. So.
Do you like writing in the evenings?
Yeah, that's why I have do.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Like after working all day, like,
Yeah.
like
I think,
it's over for
yeah,
me.
I think because my day job is so data focused and analytical, that my night job being creative, it's kind of like my reward for using that side of my brain, and I get to switch over to my other side of my brain. But there are days where I'm just so burnt I can't bring the people to me to write their stories. So
a lot of times my night job is wine. So.
nice. Love it. Yes.
That is not a bad gig if you can get it, you know.
Right. Yeah. Good job.
But it's interesting thinking about it coming in at from a project manager's perspective, because I think sometimes when you tell people that they can hit a daily word count, it seems revolutionary, you know, like this is big thing, but it's breaking down a task the same way you would break down any other project that you work on.
It is. With the 20, I've not ever missed a deadline for anything, edits and regular like submission deadlines, because I know what my word count is comfortable at per day. I make sure that I keep everything moving. I know how much farther I have to go, that kind of thing, because I treat it like a project.
Do
Me
you
too.
plan out
Yeah.
your year ahead of time, ladies? Do you know where you're, you know, like essentially the production schedule, where your writing schedule is going to go for the year?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
You too, Pat?
Even to 2 years.
Oh, you go 2 years out, Kate.
Yeah, I'm 2 years out too.
Oh wow, I'm only 1 year out, but
Yes. Yeah. I usually will also do a buffer, so that I don't have to write to a deadline. So I will generally submit when I have all the books for the series done.
Oh wow.
So that way, so I write that far ahead so that way I can submit. And then like right now I'm working on books that I'll submit in 2025. So
yeah, that makes sense. And our production schedule is out to 2026 now. So
yes.
so we are way out.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I don't know if it happens to you, but I always think I can get more done than I can actually get done. And one of the I took an HB 90 course, and one of the things that happened to me was like trying to figure out, oh no, wait, this is like the best laid plans, but in reality, things are going to happen, and things are going to happen. And I think getting used to that idea that you can't quite hit, you know, the optimistic mark that you set for yourself.
It's also about priorities. You
Mhm.
know, if you've decided that you're never going to turn something in late, I certainly would not do that. Then if I'm really stuck, like if things aren't going as fast as I thought they were going to be, well, something else in my life is going to have to suffer.
Yeah.
Sorry if it's your birthday, I can't come. You know, it's just, you know.
Yeah, and that's a Nora Roberts thing too. You know, it's like I saw her speak, you know, ages and ages and ages ago at RWA, and that idea that writing is a very creative process, but it's also a job. You know,
It is a job. Yep.
You have to.
It's our business.
Everything. Yeah.
Although, I mean, I've heard with my writer friends, sometimes this idea comes up of, you know, writing is so hard, and I get it, but it is not like, you know, pouring tar in the noonday sun. Like it's not
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you run into your little glitches like that. You kind of got to push through it.
Yeah.
But really, it's such a
It
privilege
is.
to be able to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's delightful, that idea of like letting your monkey brain play. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and I've had like friends say, you know, do you think you'll ever quit your day job and do this full time? And I always say no, because I think it would change the dynamic of it being a reward for, you know, the time I spend in my day job. You know, if I had to do this because it was my only source of income, then I would think there would be so much more pressure on myself. You know, so keeping it as my side hustle kind of, but still a real business, I think makes it easier to create because I don't have that additional pressure to create.
I think there's something too about asking somebody to give you their time. and as authors, kind of fundamentally what we're doing is we're asking somebody to give us their time while we tell them the story. And, there has to be a certain level of professionalism and also respect in that, in that exchange back and forth between the author and the reader too. So, awesome.
Definitely.
Ladies, it was delightful to talk to you today. We could keep going and going and going. We are at the end of our time. I'm going to repeat myself like I do every week because it's true every week. Dragonblade books are the best deal on pre-order and release. So I'll make sure I put the links in the comments of the chat. So if you haven't gotten your books yet, go ahead and grab them now. If you don't manage to get them on pre-order or release, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited. So you can try anything you want to.
Okay.
Ladies, thanks again for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evelyn.